So today I'm going to be talking about how not everything in the field of psychology is black and white. I realized that a lot of people actually think that you either have a disorder or you don't, which isn't true, because most disorders are on a scale, and on that scale it's basically completely out of the range. Like, forget about it, you don't even have this. Or the extreme cases, like, you definitely have it. But there are people who fall in the middle, and it's a range. So, like, for example, autism. Alright, so there's autism, and then there's another disorder right behind it, which is Asperger's syndrome. People with these disorders have an absence of something called theory of mind. And what that is basically the ability to understand what other people are thinking. In most basic terms, it's mind reading. And for example, you understand that not everyone thinks like you, and you also understand that someone else has a different opinion than you. Those with autism and Asperger's, they don't really have that. They don't understand that what other people are thinking about, and that's why it's so hard for them to communicate with others. That doesn't mean that they can't communicate at all, it just means they have a harder time. Of course, there's an opposite, and it's not what average people are, because not everyone can look at someone and say, oh, that person is totally thinking this. That's not how it works. Most of us fall in, I want to say this area, but for the most part, we kind of float around in the middle of the spectrum. There are some people who are really good at understanding what others are thinking, and there are people who really need to talk about it and ask someone consistently and constantly what it is they're thinking about. So again, that's one disorder that's like the spectrum, and that is an example. It's the same thing with ADD and ADHD. A lot of people seem to have this idea that you either have it or you don't. And when they think you have it, they think of the more severe cases. So like people with ADHD, they think of people who really can't stand still and always have to move around and run around and all that stuff. It's not really like that either. There's a spectrum and a scale for people with ADHD. Of course, there's the really severe cases of people who can't stand still and sit still and have to consistently move. And then there's the less severe cases where they can't sit down for a long time, but they still need to move. Same thing with ADD, which is basically you can't think and stay focused on one subject for a long time. You end up floating around and thinking about multiple things at once. Those three are the biggest things that people tend to think are black and white, which it really isn't. It's black, 50 shades of gray, then white. Oh, that's such an old joke. So, not everything in the field of psychology, especially abnormal psychology, is just black and white. It's a scale. That usually applies to most disorders, again. I only used autism, ADD, and ADHD because they're the most widely used and thing that people take for granted. Alright, so that was the segment for today. And if If you like me, hit the subscribe button, because it does get a little sad and tiring when you realize there's not many subscribers and not many viewers. So yeah. Bye.